This is not my slides and my shirt say Concordia. That's because I came from work and my marketing folks put these together for me, but this is not a Concordia thing. So part of what we do in the financial aid profession is come out and do these sorts of things for folks to help you sort of navigate the financial aid process, the paying for college process, to answer questions that you might have regardless of the institution that we work for. So I'll use Concordia in a couple of examples probably, but this is not a thing necessarily about Concordia. If you've got questions about Concordia, I'm happy to answer those, but I want to cover a couple of things tonight. This isn't the type of presentation where we go line by line through the FAFSA. My experience, those aren't typically very exciting evenings. I want to cover a couple of questions, how much will college cost question. We'll talk a little bit about where financial aid comes from, and then we'll talk a little bit about the FAFSA and answer some common questions about it. And if you've got questions as we go along, please feel free to just raise your hand or shout them out as we go. So the takeaway that I want you to have before I even get started is it's not your job to be an expert on financial aid. It's my job to be an expert on financial aid. All of the colleges have folks like me. We're very nerdy. We like this sort of stuff. We pay attention to all of the ever-changing regulations and things. It's not your job. So your job is to know that there are people on the college campuses that you're thinking about who can help you, and to reach out and ask those questions as they come up. I'll give you my email address at the end. You can email me, say si@south. I've got some questions. We're happy to answer those questions for you. So that's the big takeaway. Know that there are folks who do this for a living that can help answer questions that you have as they come up. So the first thing I'll talk a little bit about here is trying to figure out how much will college cost. This can be confusing and hard to do, especially if you've got 5, 6, 7, 8 different schools that you're thinking about. It can get really kind of challenging to figure out what the different costs are, how to compare those costs. And so the first thing that we do as colleges and universities right out of the gate is we have what we call the sticker price or the comprehensive price. It's the number that you see on the website or in the admission brochure. It's the tuition and fees for four-year schools. It's the housing and food costs. We kind of bundle all of that together and say, here's what it costs. The reason this is kind of confusing is that at most colleges around the United States, nobody pays that cost. I would love it if some people paid that cost to make my job a little easier, but most folks, again, this isn't at every college in the United States, but at most colleges there are scholarships and things like that that students will receive that get subtracted from that sticker price. And so the net price is really the thing that you want to be figuring out at, again, each of the institutions that you're thinking about. So having a little spreadsheet with all the colleges, you put the sticker price across the top, you figure out whatever the scholarships are that you're receiving, you subtract those to get that net price. We know that a lot of folks, 64% of folks in the last Sallie Mae survey, we're eliminating colleges just looking at that sticker price and thinking that's too expensive, and they don't even do any more research. It always pays to do a little bit more research. A few years back, colleges were required now to have on our websites what's called a net price calculator. And so if you go to any college website, you type in a little search thing, net price calculator, there's a tool. We're all obligated to have this on our site. You answer a series of questions, and it'll estimate what that net price might be for you and your family as you go. So at least take that step. Don't be frightened by the super high sticker price that some colleges have because scholarships and other types of financial aid might bring that down. So we see a lot of times folks are comparing that sticker price, that comprehensive price. We know that that's not a great idea. The other thing that we see happen a lot is families will compare scholarships. And so a couple of years ago, I had mom call me. She was from Wisconsin. Her son was looking at Concordia, and her son was looking at another private school in Washington, Pacific Lutheran University. And she said, we got a scholarship from Concordia, that was great. And then we got a scholarship from Pacific Lutheran, and it was $5,000 more than the scholarship we got at Concordia. It really seems like they like us more, and that's probably going to be a better deal since it's such a bigger scholarship. Is there anything else that we can do at Concordia? And so I said, well, hang on a second. So I went out on the website for Pacific Lutheran, and their sticker price was about $5,000 more than ours. So that net price ended up being pretty close. And so we kind of did that together over the phone, and it was like, oh, that's interesting. So you don't want to necessarily compare the scholarship amounts that you're getting from different schools. It's that net price that you want to get to. And again, there's folks that can help, especially if you've got, again, 6, 7, 8 schools that you're looking at that can get to be kind of a confusing process. Another important thing to think about when asking the question how much college will cost is how long will I be in college? And this is sort of related more to 4-year schools at this point rather than a 2-year school, but these are the 4-year graduation rates of a whole bunch of schools and systems kind of in our area. And you can see that at most places, not everybody graduates in 4 years. And this is doesn't have anything to do with how smart or talented students are, it's just simply a way that colleges function, right? There's only a certain amount of space in a class. If you need that class as part of your program and the class is full, you gotta wait to take the class until the next time it's offered. Maybe that's next semester, maybe it's not until the next year, and it's pretty easy to see how students can get a little behind. And so it's a good question to ask at the colleges and universities that you're thinking about. What percentage of students graduate in 4 years? What sorts of things does the college do to help students make sure that they finish on time? And the reason that it's expensive or important in cost is that you're paying for an extra year or two, and then you're also losing the income that you might have had in that year or two after after the 4th year. So yeah.
Is there a way that you can, like, let's say you're going for 4 years and you like know what classes like you need or want to take? Is there a way that you can plan all your 4 years out exactly what classes you're gonna take so then you don't get like booted out of classes?
You can plan your 4-year schedule, and most colleges will help you do this. You'll have an advisor that'll kind of make that roadway for you. And so that's a smart thing to do. But if there's a lot of students trying to get into a certain class, it all kind of depends on when you get to register. And in my experience, I've worked at 4 institutions now. The first year students register last. So that's when sometimes this happens, right? Because if everybody gets to pick the classes before you as a first year student, sometimes the class will get full before you even get a chance to register for it.
So when's like a good time to like start registering, like for like, let's say like your senior?
Yeah, so for college students, seniors register, well, the rising seniors register first, and then the juniors, and then the sophomores, and then the first year students. So they kind of have it, and it's every college will be a little bit different. So it kind of in the fall, you register for the spring semester, and vice versa. In the spring, you register for the following fall semester.
So it all just depends on what grade you're in?
Yeah. But again, every school is going to be a little bit different. So in the admission process, it's a good thing to talk about with admissions folks. How does it work at the particular schools that you're looking at to try to make sure that you get done in 4? Okay, so what is financial aid? It's pretty simple on the surface. 4 categories of funds that we see here: scholarships, loans, grants, work. Loans are considered financial aid technically. So we'll talk a little bit about each of these things. Sometimes I do this presentation and it's just students in the room, and I'll say, who's interested in scholarships? And everybody's shy, so nobody raises their hands. Everybody should be interested in scholarships, because scholarships make college more affordable. They lower that price. And they're wonderful because they don't need to be repaid. These are dollars that students earn by working hard, right? You work hard to get a good grade, you work hard to get a good test score, you work hard to be a talented athlete or musician or artist or whatever it might be. You're spending time and effort to develop those skills and talents, and you're rewarded through scholarships. But it also takes effort and work, because sometimes there are applications that you need to fill out and deadlines you need to monitor, or essays maybe, or interviews. There's all sorts of different ways that students get scholarships, and so it takes some organization, some effort on the student's part in order to get those scholarships. And then a lot of folks think you just do the scholarship thing, in your senior year of high school, or maybe the summer before you go to college, but we say you should be looking for scholarship opportunities all the time, all year round, all while you're in school. Our office gets an email. I bet we get 2 or 3 emails every week from scholarship organizations saying, hey, we've got this scholarship, will you please advertise it for your students? And so it's something that happens all the time. It's good to start local around the Fargo-Moorhead area. There's lots of businesses and organizations that'll have scholarships for local students. That's great. And then you can kind of spread out and look nationally. There's some websites that are pretty good for scholarship searches as well. Never pay for a scholarship service. That's generally a red flag if someone's offering a scholarship service and they want you to pay for it. If you're not quite sure about something, shoot an email to us in the financial aid office at one of the schools and say, hey, is this legit or is this not legit? And we can usually kind of help you sort of navigate that. But all 4 years, there are some, the websites, the online searches for scholarships are typically you create a profile for yourself as a student, you answer a whole bunch of questions about where you're from, what you want to study, all sorts of things, very detailed profile. And then those websites will send you emails and say, here are some scholarships that fit your profile, and you get to decide as a student, yeah, I want to apply for that one, or no, I don't want to apply for that one. I've seen scholarships for left-handed people, I've seen scholarships for tall people, lots of different scholarships out there, and it's good work to kind of be looking for those opportunities, because again, scholarships can make college more affordable. Yeah?
Can you get scholarships all the way through your like senior year of college?
Mm-hmm.
Like how many years you get?
Yep. Yep, so it's kind of a good little part-time job to just sort of maybe apply for a scholarship or two every week, or whatever it might look like for you, but it's something to sort of be on the lookout for all 4 years, all year round. Yep. Wonderful question, good. All right, grants. Grants are also wonderful in that they're going to make college more affordable. They're going to lower that price. They do not need to be repaid. The nice thing about grants is, generally speaking, the FAFSA is the only thing you really need to do in order to be considered for grants. So you file the FAFSA, you have it sent to the schools that you're thinking about, and if you're eligible for grants, the schools will automatically award those for you. So the big federal program that you may have heard of is called the Federal Pell Grant. It's based on your FAFSA. If you're eligible for a Pell Grant, you can get that Pell Grant at any of the schools that you're thinking about. Some grants are specific to institutions. So Concordia, for instance, has a Concordia grant. You can't take your Concordia grant to another school. The Pell Grant you can take to any school. So grants, sometimes they're unique to the school, sometimes you can take them anywhere. But grants are wonderful. If you're eligible, schools will automatically award those for you. Don't need to be repaid. Loans do need to be repaid, and they do not make college more affordable. They're simply a way that some folks choose to help pay for college in financing. And there are a couple different loan programs. The federal government has a loan program called the Federal Direct Loan for students. And any student who does a FAFSA is guaranteed eligibility for one of these loans. So it doesn't have anything to do with a cosigner, doesn't have anything to do with income. If you do the FAFSA, students are eligible for a direct loan. In a first year, students can borrow up to $5,500 in this loan. Second year students can borrow up to $6,500, and then third and fourth year students can borrow up to $7,500. It's got a fixed interest rate every year. Congress sets that interest rate in the summer, and then it's set for the whole life of the loan. You don't need to make loan payments while you're in college, although some students will make interest payments while they're in college in order to keep that interest from capitalizing, but there's no requirement to make payments while you're in school on those direct loans. A couple of benefits to the direct loan program. Loan forgiveness is a big hot topic in the media over the last couple of years, but there have always been loan forgiveness programs that go back a long time, decades. And so for students who go to work in public service, for instance, there's a public service loan forgiveness program. You work for 10 years in a public service type job, you make your loan payments, and then after those 10 years, you can have the rest of your loan forgiven. So there's a few loan forgiveness programs out there, different than all the stuff you're kind of hearing in the media the last couple of years. There's also a benefit you hope you never need, but for students who become disabled or pass away, those loans are also forgiven. So those are some of the benefits of that federal direct loan program. In financial aid, we love acronyms, so here's one for you. The PLUS program is another federal loan program through the Department of Education. It's the parent loan for undergraduate student, just like it sounds. Parent borrows this loan to help pay for school, not transferable, so you can't transfer it to the student when it enters into repayment. It's in the parent's name forever. I sometimes see little deals go down in our office between parents and kids, but it's in the parent's name forever. Also has the fixed interest rate that Congress sets every year. This one it's not a guaranteed loan, it does have a small credit component to it, not quite the same robust credit check that you would undergo for a mortgage or something like that, but it does do an outstanding debt check. And then the other type of loans, aside from the federal programs, what we call alternative loans or private loans. These are just loans made through a bank. So if you have a bank that you do all your business with and you want to check to see if they have a loan program for students, that's totally fine as well. Most students in our experience don't have a big credit history yet while they're in high school, and so oftentimes these private loans will need a cosigner. They typically have variable interest rates, and although we're seeing some more banks offer fixed interest rate loans for students as well, but that's another program. No forgiveness benefits on these, so if you take a private loan, that loan's going to have to be paid back in full eventually. So, all right. Work study, this is the last pot of money. Oh, sorry.
I have so many questions, but
That's great.
let's say you like get a scholarship for like one school,
Mhm.
but you're not going to that school. Can you give that scholarship to like one of your friends or like one of your family members or something?
The question about scholarships and transferring those scholarships. So generally, no. The schools are going to decide who gets the scholarships based on each individual student. So if you receive a scholarship at Concordia, for instance, then you choose to go somewhere else, that scholarship just kind of goes away.
Oh.
And there might be other scholarships that students are eligible for that we award, but they'll be based on that individual student.
Oh.
Yeah, good question. Yeah.
I have both questions. The FAFSA, do you only have to fill that out once, or is that every year that they're in?
Every year. Yep. You don't have to fill it out, but it's an annual process, yeah.
Then the fixed interest rates on the federal loan and then the one that's the plus loan,
Mm-hmm.
are those usually comparable to each other, or is one a better rate than the
Yeah,
other?
the rates on federal loans are kind of high right now, high for these federal loans. The plus loan is in 9% now, it's a little over 9%, and the student portion of the student loan is around 6%. That's, again, much higher than they normally are. The student loans are usually in the 4% range, but they've been, the last couple of years, they've been a little bit higher.
And so you're accruing interest through all of their college, but you're not actually paying it back until they graduate?
Yeah, so you can pay the interest, make interest payments quarterly or however frequently you want while the student is in college in order to save that interest from capitalizing. So at the end of, when you start to pay these loans back, it's 6 months after you're done with school usually. Any interest that accrued over that time gets added to the principal, and then you're paying interest on that as well. So it makes sense to make the interest payments if you can while you're in school.
There are subsidized loans.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. You get into the weeds. So I didn't mention this in the loan piece, but in the student loan portion, sometimes the student will qualify for subsidy. Some portion of that loan might be subsidized. That's based on your FAFSA, and the subsidized portion of the loan does not accrue interest while you're in school. So that's wonderful. I don't usually get to this level of detail, but you guys are great. So the PLUS program is not subsidized at all. There's no subsidy there. For students who qualify based on the FAFSA, they may have some portion of their loan that's subsidized where no interest accrues. Wonderful. Wonderful. I have some handouts too that I can give at the end that has the actual interest rates and stuff in them. So if you're interested in that. That last pot is the work study pot. This is just, you have a part-time job on campus while you're a student, you earn those dollars, you can use those dollars for whatever you want. You don't have to use them to pay for school. Some students will say, oh, I'm going to do my work study to pay for my books for the next semester, for instance, or those sorts of things. But students can use those dollars for anything they want. Schools are not allowed to hang on to your work study earnings. We have to pay students for the hours that they work. It's really important to ask the different schools how they do work studies. So every school does work study a little bit different. And so I've worked at a school where in order to work on campus, you had to be eligible for a need-based work study award through the FAFSA. If you didn't have need, you couldn't work on campus. I also worked at a school where we were very prescriptive, and we would say you're going to work in the library for 6.5 hours a week, and you can work in the English department for 3 hours a week. And we were very specific about the number of hours a student could work and where they would work. Concordia, we just say to students, if you want to work on campus, that's awesome, you can. It's up to you to find a job. And so every school is a little different, so make sure you ask that question. There's some benefits to work study. in addition to the dollars that you earn, students typically have higher GPAs who work on campus. They typically graduate on time more often if they work on campus, so those are some benefits that come along with having a job. We say 10 to 15 hours a week 10 to 12 hours a week is pretty manageable for a first-year college student, and so we recommend students do that. The other nice thing about working on campus is you're a student first, and so your job schedule kind of changes with your class schedule. So every semester when your class schedule changes, your work hours will change in order to accommodate you being a student first. And then when the college is on break, and everybody's going home for a holiday or whatever it is, your job is on break as well, versus if you're working off campus and your college goes on break and all your friends take off and you still have to work at your job, that's not very fun. So again, working on campus has some benefits in addition to the dollars that you earn. Okay, so how do we get some of these financial aid funds? The studentaid.gov website is kind of the launching place for all of the federal financial aid process. It's where you go to do the FAFSA, it's where you go to do the loan stuff, it's where you go to pay your loan stuff back. So it's a good website to kind of bookmark. There's tons of really good information out there too, just the tips and tricks and advice for folks who are college students as well. But the first thing you're going to want to do is get your FSA ID, your Federal Student Aid Identification. The student's going to need one of these, and one parent's going to need one of these. For parents who have had kids go to college before, you might already have your FSA ID and password, or if you went to college at some point, you might have your FSA ID and password. When you type in your name and social security and birthday, it might recognize you and you can set up a new password if you don't remember what it is. But one parent and the student will need this in order to do the FAFSA. And so it's how you're going to electronically sign everything as well. And then when you get to that studentaid.gov site again, that's where you'll see the FAFSA. There's 2 years of a FAFSA out there all the time, right? So we're currently in the 25-26 school year. So the 25-26 FAFSA is out there. But the 26-27 FAFSA is out there as well, and that's the one for the next year. So you want to make sure you do the right FAFSA. Every year we get a couple of 25-26 FAFSAs for students who really meant to do it for the next year. So you get a lot of practice doing the FAFSA if you have to do 2 of them in the same year. So make sure you pick the right year. And the first F is really important in the FAFSA, the free part. If you want to have someone help you do the FAFSA and someone's charging money for that sort of thing, again, run away. There are 3-4 colleges in this town with folks like myself who will do the FAFSA with you. So if you're interested in having someone do the FAFSA together with you so that you feel confident, give us a call, come on in. We're happy to help you do the FAFSA. We do hundreds of FAFSAs every year with families. So at the end of the FAFSA, you get another acronym for your collection, the Student Aid Index. If you've done a FAFSA before in the last few years, you might remember the EFC, the Expected Family Contribution. They've changed that now to the Student Aid Index. And this is how we'll determine your eligibility for those different types of financial aid. So there's this little need formula here. You take the cost of attendance at a college, you subtract the SAI, and that's your need. That's where the subsidized loan piece comes in. That's where some of the work-study programs fall. That's where some of the grant programs fall based on that calculation. You can send your FAFSA to as many schools as you want. And you don't have to be admitted at that school in order to send the FAFSA there. So if you're still going through the college admission process and you're picking schools that you want to apply to, you can send the FAFSA to those schools before you've been admitted to the school. That's totally fine. And the FAFSA is available right now. So the last couple of years they've had a delay in when the FAFSA was available for families to fill out, but it's open right now for the 26-27 school year. So if you want to, you can do the FAFSA now. Generally, it's an annual process. Every October 1st is when the FAFSA opens for the next year. And so you can do the FAFSA anytime after October 1st.
Can you remind me, do you have to go back and get like the taxes or something? It's been a while.
Yeah, good question about.
I can't remember how far back.
Yeah, yep. So let's see, I think, yeah, so here we go. These are the sort of main things that drive that student aid index calculation, those 6 things there. But the FAFSA is going to ask a whole bunch of questions. Many of the questions are related to your federal tax form. And one of the nice things about the FAFSA now is it just gets all of the relevant information from your tax form right from the IRS. So it's helpful to have your tax forms with you because it's going to ask some other questions as well. But all of the things that are on your tax form will automatically populate on the FAFSA for you from the IRS. And the reason that works is because the FAFSA is looking back 2 years. So hopefully your 24 taxes are filed at this point. I do have every once in a while a parent who's like, ooh, a few extensions going on. So you want to, you have to get that taken care of. But it's always going to, FAFSA is always going to look back 2 years at your tax information from 2 years ago. But again, these are sort of the big 6. And some of these things, tax filing status, adjusted gross income, income tax paid, some of those things obviously come right from your tax form. Having your W-2s handy when you do the FAFSA is good. It's going to ask about the value of your cash savings and checking accounts and some of those sorts of things as well. So having all of that information handy. I guess another piece of advice is to have your social security card handy when you do the FAFSA. If you don't know your birthday or your social security or you type those in wrong, that causes a lot of issues. And so you want to make sure that you're very careful about your identifying information, social security number. You get your birthday wrong on there, you just type it in wrong, that causes a lot of issues. So having all that stuff kind of handy when you do the FAFSA is a good idea. Okay, so some common questions that we get. The first one being, do I have to do the FAFSA? And the answer is no, you don't have to do the FAFSA. I always recommend folks do it at least once, just to sort of see, you might be surprised that you're eligible for something that you didn't think you were eligible for, but it's not a required form. And some common other questions for divorced parents or separated parents, whose information goes on the FAFSA? And in that situation, it's the parent who provides the most financial support, whose information goes on the FAFSA. And if that parent's remarried, the step parent's information also goes on the FAFSA, but the other parent's information is not included on the FAFSA at all. Doesn't have anything to do with who's claiming the student on the taxes or the custody or anything like that. It's the parent that provides the most financial support, whose information goes on. And then we also get a lot of questions about the assets. I said earlier, they ask about the value of the cash savings and checking that you have at the time that you're doing the FAFSA. And then it asks about other assets. And so common questions, do you include the value of your home? And the answer is no. The primary residence where you live, the value of that is not included as an asset on the FAFSA. Now, if you have other property, if you have a lake place or a hunting shack or something like that, the value of that property would be included as an asset on the FAFSA. Family farms or small businesses, this has been kind of a back and forth thing the last couple of years, and I'm happy that they changed this. You no longer need to report the value of your farm or your small business as an asset on the FAFSA. That was something that they never used to require, and then they started requiring it. I think for 2 years they required it, and now they've taken that off again, which is wonderful for small business owners and farmers. And then probably the most common thing that we see folks get wrong is the value of retirement accounts. And so you do not list the value of your 401k, or 403b, or Roth, or IRAs, or any sort of those retirement accounts. You don't want to list the value of those as an asset. If you think to yourself right now, I did the FAFSA and I'm pretty sure I did that, you can correct that, that's fine, or schools can help you fix that if you think you did that on accident. But the value of those retirement accounts is not included on the FAFSA. Now, the value of other brokerage accounts, CDs, stocks, trusts, all of those sorts of things you do report. And when you get to this question on the FAFSA, when you click in the box, it'll give you a big long help section at the side to say, here's what you include and here's what you don't include, or you give us a call and we can help you sort of walk through that too. But those are some common questions that we get. And then this is probably the most important thing on this slide is the FAFSA is looking back at your income from 2 years ago. It's a long time ago, or maybe something has changed since then, or maybe something changes during the school year. So anytime there's a change in your financial circumstances, you want to let the financial aid office know right away, so that if there's something that we can do we can do it. I had a dad call me a few years ago. It was March or April, it was very late in the school year, and he said, I lost my job in September. I've been trying to string it together, and I'm kind of running out of ideas on how to make this work. And I said, I wish you would have called me back in September, and we could have worked together and maybe made it a little less stressful, at least on the school side of things. So if something changes in your family finances, definitely reach out to the school and say, hey, this is a thing for us. Yeah.
This is kind of random, but how does it work if you like take like a couple years off for like gap year or whatever, and you end up like getting married?
Mm-hmm.
How does that work with the whole income thing, since you won't be on your parents' like income anymore? Does it make it cheaper or?
Good question. So there's a series of questions that the FAFSA asks to determine what they call your dependency status. And so generally speaking, students are dependent and they have to include their parents' information until they're 24. If they're a veteran of the military, if they're at risk of being homeless, there's a whole series of things that would cause a student to be independent. Being married is one of those things. So if you're a student and you're coming to college later and you've gotten married, then your parents' information isn't included.
So does that make like the whole cost of everything go down since it depends on like the income, or?
It may change the amount of financial aid you're eligible for, because it'll be based on you and your spouse's income rather than your parents' income. So it all depends on that. Yeah, good question.
So you mentioned the value of your assets, so checking accounts, savings accounts, at the time you fill out the FAFSA. So would you recommend, if you're putting money away for retirements, maxing out in HSAs and things like that, do that all before you complete your FAFSA? Or does that make a difference?
I get this question a lot. I was in Perham last night and had a very similar question. In fact, this comes up at pretty much every one of these that I do. I'm not allowed to give advice on
Moving money.
Yeah, moving money around. However, it's going to ask the question about how much money do you have in cash, savings, and checking. And at the time that you're doing the FAFSA. So I have had parents tell me, you know, we're doing like a home improvement project, right? And so they moved a bunch of money and it's sitting in their checking account because they're putting a new roof on their house or whatever. And so, you know, they said, should I buy the roof before I do the FAFSA? And it's like, yeah, probably. Yeah, because it's, you know, you don't want to lie. You're signing a federal form that you know, tells you what. So, you know, I've had that happen before. I'm not technically allowed to say here's what you should do or not, though.
Okay.
So good question.
And is there a benefit in submitting your FAFSA earlier?
That's a great question. Maybe. So financial aid funds are typically not unlimited, and so some states will have deadlines for the FAFSA. That you want to make sure you have your FAFSA in that particular state. If you're looking at a school in a particular state, you want to make sure you have your FAFSA in before that deadline in order to maximize your eligibility. And when you're on the FAFSA site, it'll tell you all the different states and what their deadlines are. Schools will sometimes have financial aid programs that are first come, first serve, and so, you know, generally having your FAFSA in soon is a good thing. I also tell folks, you know, schools, you know, the FAFSA is open now and we're getting FAFSA information, but we can't do anything with the FAFSA information that we have yet because the government puts out software guidelines, and then the companies who provide the software have to do the software updates. So we, you know, if you do the FAFSA now, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get your financial aid offer any sooner, but it's always a good thing to have it in earlier rather than later. So that's a good question.
And you just do it once, right,
for that year. Yep. So now if you have more than one kid going off to college at the same time, you do a FAFSA for each kid. Yep, you just do it once each year. Yep, good questions. Good questions. Wonderful. All right, I've got 23 more slides. Just kidding. Just two.
Wait, I'm leaving.
So, like I said at the beginning, this takes some organization. We hope that, I'm glad to see there are some students here, that you're working together as a family doing this, right? That's super important because once students go to college, we can't talk to the parents anymore without the student's permission. This is all part of the student's educational record that's protected through the various privacy laws. So working together, students and parents, is a good thing to do. Take some organization. Schools are going to have different deadlines and processes for the different things that they got going on. Some schools are going to ask for additional documents. Some schools will require what's called the CSS profile. It's another form that you have to fill out, so you want to know if the school that you're looking at is requiring that. About 30% of the folks who do a FAFSA get selected for this process called verification, where the government's going to say, we got your FAFSA, we're going to double check it. And so then schools will reach out to you and say, hey, we need you to submit these extra forms in order to get this verification process done. So it takes, you want to pay attention to the email or the text message or the phone call that you get from the school. Sometimes we need you to do stuff. This is more geared for students, but if you make sure your voicemail is set up on your phone so that we can leave you a message if we need something else from you. This all happens right now. We're right in the middle of all of this stuff. The admissions process is happening right now. The financial aid process is happening right now. Visiting the college campuses is super important to do. So this is kind of a slide that I have here for some admission stuff that I do. But this is the time of year when this all happens. So the timing of this evening is good. All right, and this is the last thing I'll mention. We've talked about financial aid and how to pay for college that way. The other way that folks pay for college, in addition to maybe scholarships and loans, is just through like a monthly payment plan. Most colleges have a monthly payment plan that you can sign up for now. And so it's a strange exercise, but think about how much money you have to spend on your kids living in your house. I'll guarantee you right now, every light in my house is on. My kids might not even be home, but every light's on in my house right now. So there's a cost, right, to having kids in your house. And so once the kid is off at school, maybe there's some savings there of some kind. Again, it's kind of weird to think about, but now that whatever that savings might be, you can redirect that to part of a monthly payment plan, or maybe even setting aside money to pay for college since your kid was born. Now you don't need to save it anymore. You're just going to make that part of the monthly payment plan as well. And then I always hope that students are participating in funding their education as well. My kids like the really fancy coffee drinks, so I did a little math for them, and just, you can change your behavior just a little bit and find some money to set aside for college as well. And I tell a story. This is an old story, so this is more for parents. Back in the days when we used to write checks, students, it's something you did back in the day. But this family I was working with, the folks were helping the student pay for college. The student was paying some too, but every semester when the check was due, the dad would put the money in the student's checking account. And then the physical act of writing a check with a comma in it, the student had a little thing like, this is a big deal. My family's making a big investment in me. Maybe I'm going to take this a little bit more seriously. So just that physical act of paying the bill was a big deal for them. So that's what I have. There's my email address. Like I said, feel free. Concordia doesn't have anything to do with this. If you're looking at Concordia, great. If you're looking at other schools, that's fine. Shoot me an email. Ask me the questions that you're wondering about. We're always happy to help with that. So if there are questions now, I'm happy to answer some. Also, I'll stick around. Sometimes it's not fun to ask personal finance questions in a room full of strangers or friends. But yeah, any questions that I can answer now? Awesome.
Did you learn lots?
And like I said, I'll stick around and answer questions that you might have. And then I've got my little handout here